Hey guys, Richard here with eBike Reviews and Adventures, and today we're going to be unboxing the Haoqi e-bike. And I'm going to have a little help doing it. Hey, a big shout out to Haoqi for sending us this e-bike to review today. We appreciate them supporting our channel. Now let's get right down to it. Okay guys, before we start unpacking everything, we're just going to take a quick look over, make sure everything looks like it's good and that there's nothing damaged here, and then we're just going to jump right into it. We're going to cut off all the zip ties, get rid of all the packaging, and then start the assembly. Okay guys, here's a close-up now after we got it out of the box. Most all the packaging is off. We do have a fender there we need to install on the front, and it looks like the rear fender is partly installed back, but we do have to put in and install these supports. That's not going to be a problem at all. We do need to add the pedals. The seat is already there. Up here we do have the stem, so we got to loosen that up and go ahead and get the handlebars installed, which won't be a problem at all. It's a pretty easy process. I'll show you that. But yeah, one thing I did notice just real quick is it does have a battery indicator here on the battery. And when you push it, it does show that the battery is empty. So we're going to pull that battery off and go ahead and get it charging while we continue the assembly process. Another thing I noticed is this bike does come and the tires are flat, which is fine. No big deal. They gave us a pump that we can use. I also have my own pump that I'll probably use to get those tires aired up so we can get ready to get on the road. All right, so they gave us some wrenches here, some Allen wrenches or hex wrenches, but they're I mean, my goodness, they're super small, and that doesn't do us a lot of good. And they did not give us a wrench to tighten on the pedals here, so we'll be using our own tools for that, so just be aware of that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and attach the handlebars up here on the stem. And to do that, we need to loosen up the stem so we can raise it up. And we're going to need to take these 4 screws out right here to get this piece removed so we can set the handlebars down inside there. Next, we're going to go ahead and install the front tire, and this part is always a little tricky, so it's better if you have some help. I don't have any help with me today, so we're just going to have to struggle with it a little bit. I don't like taking the bike and flipping it upside down, just because you got all the controls, the LCD display and everything on top, and I don't want to risk something getting broken or dented or scratched or whatever. So I don't like flipping it upside down, so we'll try not to do that today. But it does require to lift up the front and then slip the tire in there and get everything in place where it needs to be. So that can be a little tricky. Make sure you pull out this little spacer here. This was for shipping, and it was only to protect the calipers of the brakes. Make sure it's spun around so that the disc brake is on the same side as the calipers. This little doohickey here you can remove because it is just there for shipping. And it looks like we have another part down here that is for shipping, so we're going to slide that right off. Okay guys, this bike is equipped with a quick release for the front tire, which is a nice feature for a more of a budget kind of bike like this. This is my first one, so we're going to kind of figure it out together exactly how this goes together. But what I've discovered so far is we'll just take one end off, unscrew it, take off the spring, and don't lose that spring because you'll need it again in a moment. And then from here, we're going to slide it through the axle because the axle is actually hollow. So we're just going to slide it through the axle. So it comes out on the other side. And then we're going to put this spring and this, flip that around the correct way. Put the spring and this nut back on. Now we're not going to tighten this down very much because we want to have as much room as we possibly can get in order to get the tire installed here. So let's see if we can figure it out this way. I'm going to pick up the bike and then just slide this tire in. So we're going to take the bike up, kind of get in front of the bike. I've got the bike resting on the tire right now so I can get in front of it. And so I'm going to go ahead and pick up the bike and let's see if we can get those forks in there. Now when you do this, you got to make sure that on this side over here that you get that caliper. You're right down here, the caliper has got to go onto the disc. So slip it the disc right between the calipers and then go ahead and rest the forks right down onto the axle and make sure you have that on both sides. And that was actually pretty seamless. All right. Next we just need to tighten down these axle nuts. Okay guys, I was having a moment because when I installed the handlebars, I was doing it from the front and I wasn't paying attention, but the stem was actually spun around backwards and it was facing forward. And after I put the handlebars on and stepped away, I realized something just didn't look right, and that's when I realized my mistake. So I had to loosen up the handlebars, take them off, spin this around, and then reattach the handlebars. Next, what you want to do is go ahead, you got two screws right here. We got one on this side and one on this back side. And you want to tighten those down because that's what clamps the handlebar stem onto the stem itself, and it holds everything nice and tight. And when you do that, you want to make sure that your tire is pretty well lined up with your handlebars so you're not driving down the road, all crooked and wonky junk. So once you got everything nice and straightened up, go ahead and tighten down those two screws right there. Okay, next we're going to install the front fender and the light, and this goes on together. So we're going to slip the fender up inside here and just let it sit there like that. And we got the screw and everything attached to the light, so let's see if we can get that off. Again, we don't have a wrench. A wrench wasn't provided. And I'm going to have to use my own. Alright, we're just using an adjustable wrench here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use the same screw. We're going to run it through the light. We're going to run it through the frame. And we're going to attach it to the back side of the fender bracket there. And then we're going to put the nut back on, tighten it all up. Okay, now we attach the bottom part of this fender, and those attach right here. They've got these right at the bottom of the fork. They have these little connection points. Okay guys, we've got the bike assembled, but there's a few more things we need to do. We're going to go ahead and air up the tires, and I'm going to double check all the connection points, all the bolts, all the screws, just to make sure everything's tightened down. I already found one or two that was loose. So we're going to go ahead and make sure everything's tightened down really good. The battery is still charging. It's going to need a few hours yet to be able to get a full charge before we can take this out. I'm also going to make some fine-tuned adjustments, like make sure my seat is adjusted where I like it. And I need to move some things up here on the handlebars, because now that I have the handlebars where I think I'm going to keep them, I need to loosen up the button pad and also the brakes and just rotate everything so it's sitting in more of a comfortable position. So I'm going to go ahead and knock that out. Okay, the battery is fully charged, the tires have been aired up, all the adjustments have been made, and the last thing left is to take it for a ride. Now hey, be looking for our next video, because we're going to do a full review on this bike. We're going to spend the next week testing it, driving it, running it through its paces, and then we're going to come back and tell you everything that we like and the things that we don't like about this particular bike. So be looking for that video. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. And until the next video, ride safe.